Anakin Skywalker wins fights like a storm, fast, loud, undeniable. In Revenge of the Sith, that speed saves lives and nearly burns the galaxy down with him. But what if the Clone Wars forced him to train the Force harder than the lightsaber? What if he learned to calm the fire before it became Vader? Let's begin. The shift doesn't start in the temple, it starts in smoke. Early in the Clone Wars, Anakin stands on a battlefield. The 501st didn't get outfought. They got out-timed. A feint in orbit, a squeeze on the ground, a crossfire that arrived like the weather. Anakin, Rex, and Ahsoka keep the line intact long enough for the Republic to stabilize the sky, but when the firing finally drops off, the silence doesn't feel like victory, it feels like counting. Ahsoka watches her master move wrong. No swagger, no grin. His voice stays tight, like every sentence has to force its way out. He still gives orders, still gets people moving, but the moment it's safe, he steers her away from the worst sightlines before the smoke clears, like he's trying to block a picture from lodging in her head forever. When the medics start sorting the living from the dead, Anakin walks with Rex. The armor on the ground isn't anonymous anymore. Scuffs, scratches, numbers on helmets, little details that make it impossible to pretend this is just the cost of doing business. Rex tries to keep it practical, the way he always does. "Sir, no one's blaming you. We were made for this. We knew the cost." Anakin stares at a helmet half sunk in ash and shakes his head like refusing the sentence might change it. They didn't deserve that. Rex doesn't argue. He just watches the turn happen. Grief becoming a vow. The vow trying to become a plan. And if no one catches it, the plan will become a cage Anakin locks around his own ribs. That night, Anakin doesn't sleep. When he closes his eyes, the field comes back. When he opens them, he sees vectors and casualty projections. He writes strategy until his fingers cramp. He replays the engagement until his mind feels bruised. He keeps chasing one impossible outcome: a war where nobody under his command dies. Then the war hands him a problem pushing can't solve. The Separatists are too big. Too many fronts. Too many droids. Too many ways a clean plan becomes a funeral when timing goes wrong. For the first time in a long time, Anakin hits a wall he can't cut through. So he does something that should have been normal for a Jedi and has never been normal for him. He asks the Force for help. Not as a shove in combat, not as a reflex, not as a weapon, as a conversation. He starts with fundamentals he used to rush past: breathing, stillness, patience, and it's humbling in the way only basics can be. A Venator never truly goes silent, so he adapts. He builds his day with discipline, then steals whatever quiet he can find. And when the campaign allows it, he steps off-world, away from metal corridors and alarms, to places where life is loud in a different way. Wind through trees, water moving like breath, a ridge under an open sky that doesn't care who you are. Out there, the Force feels less like pressure trapped in stone and more like a living current. He starts noticing small life again. Insects moving with purpose, birds vibrating with tiny heartbeats. The pulse of an ecosystem, countless living things, separate but synced. It becomes harder to stay clenched when an entire planet is teaching you what unclenched feels like. When the 501st returns to Coruscant for resupply, Anakin goes somewhere he usually avoids unless he's forced. Jocasta Nu looks up from her desk like she can hear questions walking toward her. "Skywalker, you're far from your usual noise." Anakin doesn't give her a heroic version. He gives her the private one. He tells her he can't watch clone armor pile up like scrap and pretend it's normal. He tells her his instincts are fast, but fast isn't the same as wise. He tells her he needs a way to keep people alive that doesn't turn him into a monster trying to control the galaxy with his bare hands. Jocasta doesn't hand him a miracle. She hands him a discipline, an old focus method from wartime records, sometimes called battle meditation. Not mind control, not puppeteering, more like alignment, shared calm, cleaner awareness, better timing under pressure. A technique that can steady a unit or break it if the anchor loses control. If you link and you fall, you don't fall alone, you pull. She tells him the safest way to learn it is under someone who won't flatter him, won't fear him, and won't let talent become an excuse. Yoda. The temple gardens sit high above Coruscant's endless traffic, but the city still presses up through the stone like a heartbeat. Anakin sits across from Yoda, and for a moment it feels strange, a war hero being taught like a beginner. Yoda's ears tilt. "Lower it. Drowning yourself, you are." Anakin pulls back until the noise becomes a smaller circle. He finds Yoda first because Yoda is unmistakable, old, bright, sharp, in a way that doesn't need to prove anything. Their awareness touches, and the connection settles. Then Yoda has him add Jocasta. Anakin reaches again, steadier now, and the three presences align. Not fused, not erased, simply coordinated. Yoda tells him linking is easy. Using it without ego is the hard part. You don't fill people with your will. You offer them a clearer picture. You keep panic from shrinking their world into a tunnel. Anakin listens like his life depends on it, because in his head, the lives of the 501st do. He practices quietly. No speeches. No public demonstrations. He tests it where failure won't kill anyone. Training drills with Ahsoka. Simulation runs with Rex. The first time he touches their awareness, the change is immediate. Ahsoka's defense sharpens like a blade settling into its groove. The clones move with fewer wasted steps, fewer late reactions. Ahsoka notices and looks a little rattled by how natural it feels. It's like, the room is bigger, like I can feel the next angle before it happens. Then comes a real test, a small space engagement, the kind of fight that usually ends with manageable losses and a quiet memorial afterward. Anakin links with the clone pilots, keeps the connection light, and the battle turns tight. Vulture droids lose their swarm advantage because the pilots anticipate collapse points instead of reacting late. Wings cover each other without shouting. The formation moves like one creature. When it ends, the Republic ships have scars, but the casualty board doesn't change. Rex stares at it like it's malfunctioning. That's not how it usually goes. Ahsoka looks exhilarated. Anakin doesn't, because now he's seen how clean a fight can be, and part of him starts treating that outcome like something he should be able to guarantee. The next engagement is bigger, uglier, and honest. The link helps. It saves lives. It does not erase the cost of war. Anakin takes that personally anyway. He starts measuring himself against an outcome no Jedi can promise. He sleeps less. His patience thins. He stops talking about what he feels and starts talking only about what he can prevent. Obi-Wan notices the change in the way only Obi-Wan can. Not by accusing, but by naming the trap. "You're carrying the war like it's your private debt." Anakin tries to brush it off. Obi-Wan doesn't let him. "You can't protect people by tightening your hands around the future." That line lands too cleanly, and it makes Anakin furious because it's true. His breaking point doesn't come in a duel. It comes in a quiet room with Padme when the fear finally slips out in plain words. "I'm scared." Padme doesn't give him a Senate speech. She doesn't give him a Jedi lecture. She gives him one sentence that forces him to stop pretending he can solve everything alone. Then stop facing it like you're alone. It doesn't end the war. It ends the isolation. From there, Anakin's training changes. He still fights. He still leads. He still uses the Force to steady the people around him. But he stops treating it like a lever that forces outcomes. He starts using it the way it was always meant to be used. To see clearly, to act cleanly, and to accept that being a Jedi does not grant you ownership over death. Not long after, the saga reaches the moment where it usually breaks him. The Battle of Coruscant, the invisible hand, the rescue, the sense of history moving too fast to stop. In canon, Anakin executes Count Dooku at Palpatine's request. In this timeline, Anakin stands over Dooku, hears the same soft command, and feels something inside him refuse to snap. "Do it. End this." Anakin looks at Dooku, monster, aristocrat, architect of suffering, and the easy route calls to him. The clean cut, the quick silence. Then he notices what he would have missed before, the way Palpatine wants it. The Chancellor's calm is too hungry. Anakin makes a different choice. He stands trial. For a fraction of a second, Palpatine's expression holds too long. A tiny crack, A slip in the mask, Anakin sees it. Later, when the adrenaline fades and Coruscant's glow settles back into the windows like trapped starlight, Anakin kneels at the temple and stops bargaining with the Force. He stops demanding outcomes. He asks for clarity. And the Force answers the way it answers when you finally stop trying to strangle it into obedience. Not with a command, with a shape. A shadow behind warmth, hunger behind kindness, a presence that feels like a hand covering a lamp. Palpatine is the Sith. Anakin doesn't posture about it. He goes straight to Mace Windu. I know who he is. Mace watches him closely, searching for the crack where manipulation could slip in. Mace doesn't do easy trust, but he has eyes, and he has felt the war twisting in ways that don't add up. Then we move. The team forms fast: Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, Saesee Tiin, Agen Kolar, and in this timeline, Anakin goes with them. Not because Mace suddenly loves him, because leaving him out is how you create the exact pressure point Sidious wants. They enter Palpatine's office and the air changes instantly. The room is too clean, too still, like a predator's den dressed up as politics. You are under arrest, Chancellor, Mace says. Palpatine tries the mask first: surprise, indignation, wounded innocence. Then it slides away because he feels what's different. He can't split them. Anakin reaches out through the Force and links the team. Not gripping, not forcing, just offering a shared anchor, a synchronized calm, a single steady rhythm. Palpatine pushes back with the kind of pressure that makes minds stumble. Fear. Falling. The sudden urge to lash out. This time it hits a wall of coordinated focus. So Sidious does what Sidious always does when subtlety fails. He ignites his blade and moves like a nightmare. The duel explodes across the office. Sparks. Shattered furniture, blades snapping in and out of impossible angles. Palpatine is still lethal, still fast enough to punish hesitation, still strong enough to turn the room itself into a weapon. But every time he tries to turn it into separate fights, the link pulls them back into one pattern. The Jedi rotate. They cover. They anticipate. They refuse to be isolated. Mace drives forward like discipline with teeth. Kit and the others keep pressure on the angles Palpatine wants to use as escape hatches. Anakin doesn't chase glory, he steadies timing. He keeps the picture wide. He keeps panic from shrinking their world into a tunnel. Palpatine's eyes flick toward Anakin, calculating, and the old poison comes out soft. Anakin, you know what the Jedi will do to you. Anakin feels the hook and doesn't take it. I know what you tried to make me. Mace disarms him in a brutal exchange, and Sidious, cornered, unleashes lightning. In this timeline, Palpatine later issues Order 66, and the clones obey because of inhibitor chips implanted in their heads. In this timeline, he never gets the chance to give the command. The lightning slams into the room, the link strains, pain turns the air metallic. For a heartbeat, the team wavers because lightning is not a philosophy, it's agony. And Anakin holds the anchor anyway. Not perfectly, not forever, just long enough. Mace's blade flashes, Sidious falls. No grand victory speech, no final bargain that lands, just the sudden quiet of a puppet master without strings. For several seconds, none of them move, not celebrating, processing, because they understand what they just cut out of the galaxy, the hidden engine behind the entire war. The aftermath is messy. Palpatine built emergency powers into the Republic like a cage, and cages don't vanish just because the owner dies. Senators panic, loyalists scramble, contingency plans sit in the system like loaded blasters. But the key difference is simple. The temple isn't burning, the Jedi aren't being hunted, and the clones never receive the order to turn on their generals. That night, Anakin goes to Padme and collapses beside her like his bones have been holding too much weight for years. He falls asleep deep and heavy. No nightmares. The war doesn't evaporate overnight, but it stops being steered. Dooku's survival turns into leverage the Republic can use in daylight, instead of a secret thread controlled in the dark. Grievous becomes a problem you hunt without a Sith Lord protecting the narrative. The Jedi and the Senate argue, of course they do, but now they argue in the open. Rex is the first one to say the quiet question out loud. So, what are we now? Anakin looks at him like a man finally seeing the person inside the armor. Free, if you want it. Ahsoka doesn't come back because she's ordered to. She comes back because she wants to see what the Jedi become when they stop treating emotion like a crime and start treating connection like part of the work. Obi-Wan watches Anakin with a quiet pride that doesn't need speeches. You chose the harder path. I almost didn't. In the years that follow, the future that used to haunt Anakin stops being a threat and becomes a life. Not perfect, not scripted, just real, warm air. Peace that still feels unfamiliar, like a new muscle. Ahsoka nearby, still stubborn, still bright. Rex learning what it means to exist without orders in his skull. Obi-Wan present without that old sadness behind his eyes. And two children sprinting toward Anakin like the galaxy is a playground and he is home. Luke and Leia, they call him Dad, and it doesn't feel like something he stole from fate. It feels like something he earned by refusing the shortcut, by choosing the Force as connection instead of control, and by staying steady when fear screamed at him to break. If you enjoyed this alternate path, hit like, subscribe, and stay with us for the upcoming video.